Sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's not.
What do you want?
Walked in the same time I did.
Okay.
I'm sure. Miss Donna?
In the hospital.
What?
She went today, and she should have gone 3 or 4 days ago.
She just
She had a horrible night. She's seeing things and stuff. She hasn't hardly slept. You can't hardly understand her when she calls because she has no breath. Fluid is on the word for you. Go ahead, sorry, Dad. You need to talk to me? Okay. Huh?
No, don't leave it.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, Maria, they can hear you now.
Hi, Maria. Is somebody out there
Maria.
Hey,
with the kid?
hello everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Dawn, we love you too.
Love you.
Did you hear me tell them that Donna's in the hospital tonight?
Oh yeah.
She had to go to the emergency room. She just can't breathe. She got too much fluid. And so she's in the emergency room in the hallway. We talked to him. Dad, you go ahead and get started if you would.
Oh, no. It's heartbreaking. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Can I get it? Well, I wasn't gonna run up on you, and I figured you would maybe tip over if I run up on you.
You're up.
Are we gonna sing or say a prayer?
We'll say a prayer first, and
Okay.
then we'll sing a song. Would you pray with me, please? Lord, most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this privilege we have to come together and study your word. We pray, dear Heavenly Father, that you bless your word this evening. It will mean more to us as we study it more. Help us to grow stronger from it. Be with those, dear Heavenly Father, who are sick, especially Donna. Please care for her. Help her get rid of this fluid. Get her straight back that she can enjoy fellowship with us. In our service, in Jesus' name, amen. I don't know if I'll be able to sing it or not. I'll try it. And number 56. Be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. Beneath His wings from love abide. God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. No matter what may be the test, God will take care of you. Lean weary one upon His breast, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you.
My sinus is shut. I hear my ear trying to pop. Can't get it to pop, but I feel my sinuses.
So, hoarse, I can hardly sing.
Another feeling. It really got me.
Let's try to say 33. We'll try to sing it. If there's something to talk about, we'll just talk. Count your many blessings. When the twilight fills your tent and storms, when you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. So amazing comfort, whether great or small. Do not be discouraged, God is over all. Count your many blessings, angels will attend. Help you, God forgive you to your journey. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Got those in there or not? I'm trying to think what we're going to study last. You remember one thing? Matthew study.
Matthew.
I read it today, but my memory is quits.
Matthew.
I don't have the Bible.
Have we gone down to? We were at when the soldier, the centurion, is that the last we did, the centurion? I think so.
Yeah, that's a Jairus.
So we were down to the,
Sick.
yeah. Tell me some of the people here that are sick. I would sort of like to start getting a list
They
of
got a few on the back lawn, but
Lisa that used to come. Does she not come anymore? I haven't seen her forever. Is she ill?
Teresa.
no, Lisa,
Lisa.
you know, Barada, Lisa.
Real thin, right?
No, that's her sister.
Okay, her
She is Dana.
sister. I know, okay, so
She
Lisa had a hurt something, right?
The sister got her hand hurt,
Yeah.
and she got to have more.
But her
surgery.
sister's the one used to come on Wednesdays.
Mhm.
Is
We
she
don't know.
ill or just,
Don't really know.
Don't really know.
She was sent there for a while,
Yeah.
right?
But we,
I haven't heard anything from her lately.
As some of the people I'm never good with names, but you know, when you see them alive.
Yeah,
What about Jimmy? Is he, I don't know his last name.
you mean Clarice?
Yes.
Nancy?
Is he ill or?
Jimmy?
Uh-huh.
You know Jimmy.
Reese's husband.
Yeah. I know he was for a while.
I know,
I haven't
that's,
asked lately.
I would like to
Reese's
hear of these, huh?
Lisa's husband?
No, Clarice.
Miss Reese.
I don't know where that,
Yeah, he's still sick,
he is still sick.
but I don't know, I think there's more to it. So, but I know he was sick for a long time.
I know. I always love seeing him,
Yeah.
but there's so many that I don't really.
Well, that's me, and the ones I know, I don't remember the names. The world's worst names.
I am too. My kids make fun of me, but, and what's the other lady that used to come? Got almost white hair and it was short. She had a daughter that always came. You know, she used to sit right there a lot.
I can't remember her name either.
But her daughter did not come, or they were ill too for a while.
Yeah, I think she's, sit down.
Okay.
I think she's all right. She's afraid of this virus.
That's what's stopping everybody. Watching TV too much.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
You know, we need to remember all of these people that for years, whether they're afraid or not,
Mhm.
I miss seeing Charles a lot. He doesn't come as often.
Well, so many of them just kind of went by the right wayside. And I don't know all the reasons.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't need too much of a reason to stay at home.
Well,
Once you get started in the habit of staying at home,
it gets easier to make up those
Yeah.
excuses.
then you become,
I've done it actually, so I know from experience, it just seems like you get lazy.
yeah, we all get lazy, I think.
But I know so much has been going on just within this little church of sickness and
Yeah.
all kind of things, and I was, not involved very much in this last year, so I would like to pray for all these people that we knew.
It'd be good if we could get a list of them.
Exactly, I need a list.
Uh,
I used to have a friend that I went to church with in Peachtree City, and she knew how bad of names I was, so I would say, what is that person that sat in the second row? And she knew everybody's name,
Oh, yeah.
so she took care of me on the name. And but I really would like to pick up that prayer
That'd be good.
old people.
We could, while we're praying, we could actually read off the names. So, pray about it.
Exactly, because if they're just not coming, they need the prayer more than anything.
Yeah.
If they're sick, that's one thing, but the people that just have drifted aside, I would like to do it. So if any of us can remember to tell Joe.
Yeah, he gives a list.
He's better at names than I am, so.
Yeah, he got a good memory. I don't. I don't have good much of anything right now. Everybody's shocked.
Yeah, I know that feeling too. It's hard to keep going. I'd like to see the sun.
The sky is weird. I don't know what colors, what they are in colors out there. Have you seen it? Gray and orange and pink and something else.
Where?
Up in the sky along there.
No, I missed it. I forgot everything. I got to the car. I had to run back in the house. So I missed it. So there was some kind of
Some kind of color, and I don't know what it
spotlight or something, or
is. No, ma'am, it was just like
fireworks.
clouds or something. I've never seen it like that.
No kidding.
I don't know.
I hate to miss sky thing. Was it over the church or
No, it's just in a distance.
in the distance? Sunset maybe with clouds.
What does that mean? He used to be a weatherman.
No kidding.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That was one of my choices. I wanted to do that, but then I had kids and I couldn't go to school.
Yeah, I was for 40 years.
No
Yeah, tell us what-
kidding.
Yeah, tell us what's killing us. Why is the pollen so bad? That's something too.
That's the truth. That's, we do away with this one. Where did you,
I'm going for federal government.
right, but where, like at a base or
No, I ended up out at the airport here.
here? Okay,
Yeah, the last 7 or 8 years. I've worked here and retired here.
okay.
I worked pretty well kind of all over. Started out in Kansas City, Missouri. I went from there,
That's not an unusual place.
to El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
And from there, I went to the Northwest Territories of Canada for a year.
Northwest, no kidding.
Oh, it was cold.
Yeah, it was pretty cold.
I thought Maine was cold. Whew.
There, I went to Little Rock, Arkansas.
Cold.
And from there, I went to, I came here. Because I have a career here.
Where I lived in Kingston here, before we moved down here, I had an opportunity for the last 20-something years to actually see weather. It just so happened I lived in a little bitty valley, but you could watch the fronts come in, and they always came from the west. But you could watch it, you could see how fog performed, you could see how the wind performed and everything, and it fascinates me.
Yeah.
I really did like the weather, but I got to watch it, which is something you usually don't notice.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. A lot of people have a special interest in it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. But I was so busy trying to do what I was supposed to do that I didn't really get into it real hard.
yeah,
But I went to school a lot. I went to college. So I didn't go go for a degree. I just took courses in weather,
Yeah,
mathematics and stuff like that.
That's brilliant.
and over those times, all the instruments were changing dramatically.
Oh, yeah, it was,
It would change just continuously.
it was so different from when I retired.
Yeah,
When I first come in, you did all everything by hand. And then when I left, you did everything by computer. So,
and then they started putting too much faith in those.
Yeah.
well, like I said, garbage in, garbage out.
That's a,
So you have somebody that really don't care,
Yeah,
messing it all up.
well, that's pretty interesting. I really did enjoy seeing what fog could do and what rain could do and what the wind could do.
Yeah.
it's scary too.
Well, my grandmother taught me not to be afraid. She was afraid of lightning because it would hit phones,
Mm-hmm.
blow them up. And she was afraid of that because lightning did hit several times. But we would stand at the door and watch that lightning hit trees
Oh, yeah.
and see the different things come up over the mountain.
And that's one thing I didn't tell you when I was there. I was at Daytona Beach for a while too. And down there, that's kind of the lightning capital of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, it's changing.
Mostly over in the Orlando area.
Yeah.
Right down the middle of the peninsula, it's what they call a convergence zone.
Uh-huh.
It's where the air converges from both sides and they hit right in the middle.
Yeah.
And they have about 300 days a year of lightning in the thunder, right down the center of Florida. So that was pretty interesting when we saw that develop. Some of them it's pretty rough.
And they got all kind of names now for them. And storms, cyclones, you never heard of them.
Now, well, cyclone, that's just another word for low pressure area.
Yeah, but it's deadly.
But the cyclone can usually occur in the southern peninsula,
Yeah.
and the hurricanes in the northern peninsula.
I was on the phone one night and I looked out my back door and debris was going this way across the door. And I was telling Lynn and I told the person I was on the phone with, I said, this looks so weird because it was going this way. So when I got up and went outside the next morning, you know how water does grass when it flows? There was a complete circle
Yes, sir.
around my house. And all of my insulation was sucked out of not the roof, but the basement. And it came out the little vent and was strung across a pasture and into the woods across the street from me. But we were sitting there, we didn't hear nothing, but we could see the debris. It was dark. And so that little tornado, which it probably was more like a,
Well, there's such a thing as a mini tornado.
exactly.
They'll have winds up to 100 miles an hour.
It broke off limbs of the pine tree and it didn't tear my railing up. It wove those trees in between.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it fascinates me that
It's amazing.
yeah, tornadoes are just one thing.
We were in Tornado Alley. We were about a mile from Tornado Alley in Floyd County. And they just over the years, they hit in that stream going down the road, like you said, it, some kind of land division, I'm sure. And there were quite a few tornadoes there.
I hate to sit here and just talk, but
Well, maybe not all the time. Unless you're done, they're not.
We sang some songs till we couldn't breathe no more.
It's not one.
She didn't show up.
She's really depressed behind that hallway. Well, maybe she'd show up on a broadcast for the phone.
They have her at the ER in the holler.
Yeah.
That's what they give a plan.
Well, that's what Memorial has to do because it's like overbooked. Constantly, it takes a while to get them. That's that's just Memorial. And she's a hallway, so that means you have to stay out all the way on gurney. Pretty close to a guy who's handcuffed to his gurney with a guard. That usually happens.
They were afraid of Leah, so they put him in isolation.
All right, we're at 14, Matthew 8. Now, they're in Capernaum, which is you okay?
Yeah.
It's a seaport, which means Capernaum has some money. And this is something I learned teaching all this stuff, is that when you're on a coast and a seaport, that's usually a wealthy town. Not everybody in it is wealthy, but there's money in those towns. This is where Peter is. This is evidently where he's doing his fishing business. Now, the first thing you see is something we in the Church of Christ and most Protestant churches really make fools of themselves about. When Jesus came into Peter's home, he saw his mother-in-law lying sick in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and waited on him. Now, and this is going to be where Jesus' ministry starts. But I want to touch on something that I've heard this over and over, and I'm tired of us making fools of ourselves, even our preachers. Roman Catholics believe who was the first pope?
Peter.
Yeah. And he didn't have a good time of it if he was. Because now, tradition says, Roman Catholic tradition, and the written records say that he was pope for 35 years in Rome, which makes him, oddly enough, of all the 300 and some popes there have been, the one who has served the longest. None of them, the rest of them have served 35 years. Now, be that as it may. I have had so many Sunday school teachers, preachers, supposedly biblical scholars say, well, Peter could not have been the first pope because he was married. He has a mother-in-law. Peter was not the first pope. I mean, tradition also says he was crucified upside down outside of Rome on Vatican Hill, which is now where St. Peter's Basilica is. If you ever say this to Catholics, well, you're wrong. He wasn't the first pope because he was married. They will laugh in your face because it was never a requirement of clergy or anything in the church until several hundred years have passed. Now, they'll tell you this is not God's law, it is a church law.
Well, does it speak of his wife? Having a mother-in-law, she could have been already dead.
Could have been.
But is it ever mentioned his wife?
No, it doesn't.
I couldn't think of one time.
No, it doesn't mention Peter's wife ever in the Bible. Chances are she was alive, but women did die by the childbirth.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other thing. Even, and you're not going to tell Catholics a big secret about their church. They know all of this. Some of the popes were men who were married and had children. And they were married, they had children, and then they renounced that kind of and became the pope. Their families would live, each cardinal in those days, in like the Middle Ages and even after the Renaissance, each cardinal had a palace in Rome. And when a cardinal was chosen as pope, their family just continued to live in the palace, and the pope lived in the Vatican, and that was the end of it. One of the popes, his name was, it was Alexander, but I'm not sure what the number after his name is, and I can be sure in a minute. Alexander the Sixth. Okay. He was pope from 1492 until his death in 1503. His name was actually, before he became Alexander the Sixth, Pope Alexander the Sixth, his name was Rodrigo Borgia, which is a very famous Italian, I don't know if you want to call them a crime family, but they were close. And another couple of popes, since I looked it up, I'm gonna look up this too. I can spell. Okay. Leo X was pope from 1513 until 1521. He was Giovanni de' Medici, which Giovanni was the son of the great Lorenzo de' Medici. There were only two of them. Well, there's three, but one didn't count. There was they were a prominent banking family in Florence, but there were I can't remember his name. The first guy was just a banking guy, and then a couple of popes would go by, and another pope would be elected, who was the cousin of Leo, of Giovanni, and he becomes Clement VII, Pope Clement VII. These guys, and he is the illegitimate son of the original Giovanni, Lorenzo's brother. I know this because it is because it is a wonderful Netflix binge watch that I did this summer on the Borgias and the de Medici. When Rodrigo Borgia became Pope Alexander VI, his family lived in Rome in a palace, and he lived in the Vatican. And he also had, rumor has it, several mistresses while he was Pope. So, and what I'm saying is this, it sounds like I'm talking scandal, the Catholics don't see it that way, okay? Now, the popes, that's the first two. There are four of them who are de Medicis. Big prominent family. One of Rodrigo's sons was made a cardinal when he was 19 years old. He never served as a priest or a bishop, archbishop, monsignor. Anyhow, don't throw this in some Catholic's face that Peter was married, so he couldn't have been a pope. Popes are not married today. They were in antiquity. And they served as married and as popes. The offshoot of the Catholic Church, or really it's a split of the Catholic Church called the Great Schism, happened before this time, and it is a difference between the Roman Catholic Church and in Constantinople, the Greek Orthodox Church. They're organized very much the same because they were at one time the same. The Greek Orthodox priests and bishops and patriarchs, they don't have popes, they have patriarchs. And oddly enough, the two words mean exactly the same, Latin and Greek. The patriarch can be married, the priest can be married. They never took this oath of being unmarried, the oath of celibacy. Now, if I explored that way too much, I'm bringing the Borgias and the Medicis, I just wanted to make sure if you knew it, that you knew I knew it too. So, in fact, if you want to watch that, it gets kind of bloody and gory at times, but it's very historically active, both of those Netflix series. I binge watched them with them. They were excellent. Alexander was a wartime pope. He sent his armies. So was Leo and Clement. Oddly enough, Leo X is famous for the guy. He was the guy that invented and came up with the selling of indulgences. And then Martin Luther said no. You know, selling indulgences simply means if you want to sin, give me some money and then you'll be forgiven of it in the future. And if you're going to bring up all this dirty Catholic laundry, they already know it. You know, they already know all this stuff. You're not going to say anything to them that's, you know, different.
But wasn't that the point, power,
Yeah.
from day one? And I'm wondering, Peter wasn't exactly the regular kind of pope. You know, if you call it regular, but, you know, he was not.
Well, what I see is happening is if Peter made it to Rome, he made it during the Roman Empire. If he did, there's no evidence that he actually did. They have not found, oddly enough, you think if Peter being that important, they've not found his tomb or grave. Now, of course, every now and then there's a sensationalistic History Channel thing. We found Peter's grave, and it turns out it could be anyone. Simon Peter did serve in the book of Acts in a leadership role in the church at first. At the end of the book of Acts, Peter doesn't seem to have much sway or much authority there in Jerusalem. All of the authority in the book of Acts that Peter used to have goes to James, the brother of Jesus, who, to be honest with you, I'm much more curious about than I am Peter. I know kind of where Peter, but James, what happens during Jesus' ministry is that he rejected Jesus. All of his family did. But somehow, after he died and was resurrected and ascends to heaven, both James and his brother Jude become very, very devout and are even killed for their belief in their brother, Jesus. They grew up with him and they had no idea. I would love to know how this happened. You know? But Simon Peter, if he was the first, what the Roman Catholics would say is a pope, it was perfectly normal for him to be married, and he would continue to be married. He was not, we know the Apostle Paul died in Rome, because he says he was fixing to. He was beheaded, because he was a Roman citizen. That was considered the merciful death. The death of the captured people was crucifixion. And this is what they said happened to Peter, although there's a lot of that story that I've looked at that seems to be legend, not true. There's a lot that seems to, it would be very convenient for you to add that in to make it a better story, is what I'm saying. And that's what I teach the kids about the Iliad and the Odyssey and stuff like that too. There's probably a ring of truth somewhere in it, but a lot of it looks like it's been added. Now, the important part of this passage, I think what Matthew wants you to see, is that here in Capernaum, where Peter and his family had a little bit of influence because they were well known, he sees the mother-in-law lying sick in bed with a fever. That doesn't seem like a big deal to us because the fever is taken care of pretty easy by aspirin or by Tylenol or something like that. And we can, unless it's a huge fever, we can fix it pretty much at home. But aspirin was invented in what year? Was discovered in didn't want to do.
I don't know.
I actually do. I was surprised that I do. Because it was on a commercial,
Oh,
1899. Okay, which seems like a very long time ago, but from this point, it's a very long time in the future. So, if somebody had a fever, it was not uncommon for them to die in the ancient world, especially what could have caused it. He touched her hand and the fever left her, and she got up and waited on it. So enough people saw this, and enough people had heard him. In verse 16, now when evening came, they brought him many who were demon-possessed. He cast out the spirits with a word and healed all who were ill. This happened so that what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet could be fulfilled. He himself took our illness and carried away our diseases. I don't think on Sunday nights we've gotten to that prophecy yet. But all of a sudden, everybody who was sick began coming to Jesus. And in the ancient world, you had a lot of people who were sick who had no hope of getting better. I mean, if you were demon-possessed, how are you going to feel better? If you were crippled, how are you going to feel better? But this is a lifelong thing, and these people all of a sudden could walk, could see, could not have demons anymore. So Matthew, remember we talked about when we first started, it's a very Jewish book. He's going to bring up the Jewish prophecies of the Messiah. So now verse 18. Now when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to depart to the side of the sea. The scribe came and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, The foxes have holes, and the birds of the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. And another disciple said to him, Lord, allow me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Follow me, and let the dead bury their own dead. That seems kind of harsh, doesn't it? Now, here's to someone living in the United States of America, in our culture, that is harsh. But what you're picturing Jesus telling this guy to do with let the dead bury their dead is completely different than what he was saying. This guy's father was not dead. All right? His father was very well alive. This guy is saying, let me stay here in my parents' home until my dad dies. What was the big deal about his father dying? What happens at the father's death?
When his elder son takes over.
Everything, this is the day before the written word was that big of a deal. No contracts, no wills. This is the day that his oldest son, you're right, takes over the family business, the father's possessions. Now, think of this for a moment. For the son to assume that if you've ever had someone pass away in your family, that person, when they pass away, is a financial entity with a checkbook, credit cards, all these kinds of things, right? At what point today does all of that finance, the debts, the assets, all this stuff, at what point does it become the beneficiaries of that person, their descendants? When do they get it?
After the death of
Well, it's more than that. You have to go down, you have to present a death certificate to the bank and to the credit card people and the bill collectors and things like that. And then slowly and surely, I always told people when I did funerals, the really hard part of this is going to come after the funeral. Because that's going to be the time when you're going to totally look at all this stuff. Now, what is going to happen in the ancient world? There's no contracts, there's no nothing. What event is going to happen to where someone who has passed away then instills within someone else, who is instills within their eldest son their worldly goods? What legal thing is going to have happen? When does the son get the stuff? Not when he dies. Believe it or not. Well, one thing's gonna happen to everybody who dies. Buried. When the old man is buried, then the goods come to the son. That's the legal way. So what is this guy asking Jesus?
Wait after I bury my father.
Wait till my dad dies, and then I will follow you.
So you're going by the structure of the sentence? To presume that it was not in the process because he was a disciple, which meant he was hanging around and learning.
Well, that, and how soon under Judaism, when someone dies, do you bury them?
24 hours.
Before sundown. Before the next sundown. And Jesus was there that long.
And being a disciple, he would have been with him, right? Hanging around with
He
him.
would maybe a beginning disciple. He was a student. He was beginning to learn. So if this dad was dead
They would have known about it.
before nightfall, this guy's going to be buried. I mean, that's Jewish law.
So even if he was away from his father far enough, he couldn't have got to him to bury him.
Right. With that, if he's there in town,
Right.
he's
If he
got to
was
do it right
close.
now.
Yeah.
So this is what he's asking. He's saying, let me bury my father. When, unfortunately, I think that we think this is kind of harsh because we're applying our cultural rules. When somebody passes away, how long is it before we bury them?
Be up to a
3 days.
3, 4 days, a week? I've seen it happen 2 weeks, There's a funeral I did in Kentucky, and if you've ever been to Southeast Kentucky, you'll know, you ain't gonna get there too easy. Well, her grandson wanted to be there. Her grandson lived in Hawaii. It took a while to get from Hawaii to Kentucky, and the funeral home director cornered me one night at visitation and said, "Y'all got a favor." I said, "What is it?" I said, "We can't keep her any longer because we've got other funerals. Can we use the church building for the rest of the waiting?" I said, "Of course you can. That's fine." And they brought her in her casket to the church building. It was kind of creepy because I lived in the church building too. That's kind of the way it used to be though. Didn't it? Years ago, you brought somebody home. Well, I lived there, and I made sure I locked the door. So there, and I was in my 20s, so I was a little scarier then than I am now. But this is what he's asking. Now the other guy, the scribe came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." You got to be a little bit suspect about this because these are the guys that are going to try to find something Jesus did that was wrong. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but it kind of looks like it the way he answers them.
Is he calling him a wily fox?
No. I don't think he's calling him a fox.
Because they've been trying to
They are.
catch him in.
Well, just go that far and just answer this question. Do you think this is really the guy that Jesus is going to want to go with him? Because he's got an ulterior motive, more than likely. This is not the guy that you want to stay with you the whole time. Because if you let him stay with you the whole time, these guys are already going to take what Jesus says and twist it around.
So he's being vague.
He just said, "We're not going to." I think that's all it is. The foxes have holes, the birds of the sky have nests, and the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. In other words, we ain't got any place for you to stay. And the fact that that seems to settle the matter, and the guy doesn't follow anymore, or the guy doesn't go with them, seems to think that would be it, Because look at what these guys are. These are scribes and Pharisees and priests. they're used to kind of the finer things of life. They're used to having homes and stuff. And so he says, I'll follow you wherever you go. Well, we don't have any place, you know, and, you know, these disciples that Jesus had, where are they going to sleep? Most of the times outside. Yeah. And where are they going to eat whatever people give them or whatever, you know, because none of them have jobs and none of them are wealthy. So he's saying, you know, that you really don't know what you're asking. And when Jesus says this, especially this last part, I've got nowhere to lay my head. We got no place. The guy doesn't seem to be much interested in it anymore, does he? You never hear anything about it. But the important part about this is Jesus is now, this is I think what Matthew is trying to get across. Jesus is now trying to not really Jesus, but it's just kind of happening all around him. There's going to be this huge, big crowd following him from now on. He has come on the scene. People have seen him, and there's going to be multitudes that follow him all the rest of his ministry. Up until when, by the way? When are they all going to desert him? At the cross. They're all going to leave him except for John at the cross. You know, that's sad that you have so many people that are following it. The Bible has to call them multitudes, which I would think would number in the thousands. But then when push comes to shove, when there's a little bit of adversity, they're all gone. All these thousands of people are gone. And you know, these multitudes that had just screamed, I've said this many times, in that 25, had just screamed, glory and Hosanna in the highest, behold the King of the Jews riding on a donkey into Jerusalem. Those are going to be some of the same people in the next, in a week's time, less than a week's time. They're going to say, crucify him and release us forever. His blood be upon us and our children. Same exact people. A lot of them anyway. All right, let's quit here. I think we've gone into the Borgias and the Medicis and the popes and the things that this is hard for me to go. But don't think. It amazes me how many times Protestant preachers and members of the Church of Christ will approach. I don't agree with Roman Catholic doctrine, but let's not approach them with the idea that we know more about it than they do, because we don't. I mean, they learn, and they firmly know everything I've told you. It's not a big secret.
I had a really good friend that I could say anything with, him and his wife, and I got to know a lot because I would just say, how can you think this? You know, and sometimes it was actually quite interesting how they could. Not so unusual, you know, it's not like when you don't know people, you don't know where they come from.
This is not a criticism so much, it is a recognition of the difference. The Roman Catholics I've talked to, especially the Roman Catholic scholars, we have a view of the church is that the church is as it was in the first century. And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to follow. The Roman Catholics believe that certainly that was all good. That was how the church was supposed to start out. But what we are is how the church was supposed to have evolved into. Was supposed to have changed. And when you accept that, then you can accept all the rest of this along the way as, yeah, you know, you have some folks that weren't exactly honest, that weren't honest. You know, those were the growth pains of the church. And then, if you want to criticize them for doing that, we really can't point a finger at that either, because we've had that same thing happen. I mean, Protestant preachers and stuff have done some very dishonest things and continue to do so.
Yeah, Church of Christ too. I found it interesting, a lot of the stuff, because we got more down to the, not the theories and stuff, but they have a lot of things that we should be doing.
Mhm.
Because it's instructed, and as Protestants, we've sort of left them alone. You know, once Martin Luther did his things, people stayed away from it, sort of just to not deal with it, you know, not to be drawn in and say, well, we're getting dispensations and things like that. But there's several things that they do in practice and hold great store in that I think we should be doing.
I really like
Confession.
a lot of what they have done. I don't like the rigorous view of confession, but I like the idea of it.
Yeah, exactly. And a rigorous view is not all bad.
No, but that's a little bit too.
Well, the way
Why?
they've gotten along to do it, but then when you hear the laymen, the people that are doing it and how they feel about it and stuff, it's a lot different than the powerful.
And you do have to say that Roman Catholics, clergy, lay people, everybody, they are not afraid to take a stand. They are not afraid to stand up and take a stand.
They fought many years.
Now, whether you agree with the death penalty or not, if you'll look at every death penalty case, there will be protesters. There's a lot of times when you look outside the prison, there are nuns taking very, very unpopular stances. They do the same thing with abortions. They do the same thing with, not ugly protests, but they stand up and are counted. Whether or not you agree with what they're protesting, you have to admire their courage to do so. Because they take a lot stronger stand in what they believe than what we do.
Every family has a nun, really.
Especially like
Somebody's
the-
aunt, cousin, somebody is a nun.
Especially, yeah. All right. What's your
62.
62? All right, a couple minutes from scene 62. If you stand in need, respond to words of invitation, leave home. Together we stand and we sing.
Have thine own way, Lord.
Have thine own way.
Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will, while I am waiting, yielded and still.
Shall we pray? Almighty God and Father of all, thank you for this day. Thank you for all so many blessings. Pray you'll be with Donna tonight. She's in the hospital. She'll heal her. Bring her home. In the name of Jesus Christ, so we pray. Amen. I had to miss half a day of school today because Dad had a doctor visit and I had labs. So I was out half a day and I came home and I had to run to school and she left after that. She had a horrible night last night. She hasn't slept much. She can't breathe. She can't lay down. I have a small part of that this time of year with congestion and stuff, but if I lay down, I can't breathe. So every time, but with me, I just have to get up and sit up for about 20 minutes, maybe, or 30 minutes, and I go back to sleep, but she can't. She's been up all night, 2 or 3 nights. She told me this morning, she said, I waited too long. I said, yeah, you have. She does not want to go to a hospital ever.
Is that
That's where it
oh, okay.
It just,
It's not the animal, it's the
what it is, it's called, you see how it's yellow around us? That's because I'm
It kept
speaking.
sounding over here, and I thought, well, it's the door. Somebody's at the door.
I'm not sure if she's talking about just incidental noise. That happens at school with our meet, Google Meet, which is the same thing. When you talk, it kind of shuts everybody else and puts you on. She needed to go probably about a week ago. And she just refused.
So there won't be nothing to postpone next week. This is
We don't know.
expected,
This is,
kind of.
yeah, she's early enough to where I might clear it out. But it's not something I can say if she's listening in. This is not an easy, risk-free procedure. The chances of survival are fair. But it's not good and it's not worthy of this procedure because, but the thing is, a lot of times people have it and go home that day. The problem is that when they put the shunt around the liver, bleeding could start, and if bleeding starts, you can die. So that's what's dangerous. Anyway, that's it for now.
What are we gonna do Wednesday, next week?
I don't know. That'll be here. I need somebody to open up the building. I'll probably talk Sunday about that.
Okay.
We'll talk Sunday about that, about what I want to do. But Dad will be here, so I need to open the building. But I will be gone. That's the day she's having it, and it's also some of that. And I'm not even sure about the following Sunday. I have a doctor appointment followed that Friday if I make it. But I talked to him today because I have to see him with Dad because that same primary. We may have turned into a telemedicine thing since you're at home. But doctors, if you don't see them regularly, they don't prescribe anymore. That's why we had to get Dad there today. Let's see. Anything else happening? I don't know whether we're having a business meeting Sunday or not. We shouldn't. So I just have to print out the minutes. Anything else y'all have? Remember the time changes. Spring forward. Although the people that need to hear that aren't here, which is Joe and Kim. Hey, one morning I felt so sorry for them. I was giving the announcements at the end, and they came in. They thought they were here for Sunday school.
Oh.
They thought they were here at 10, they were here at 12. Instead of not changing it, they both changed it. And so they were here, and they did not realize when they came in, we'd gone a little bit over, so they thought they were on time for Sunday school. And they weren't. They both changed it because they've forgotten to change it so many times. They got picked up on it so many times. Maria, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Did you hear what I said about Donna?
Parts of it, it's not very clear, but she's at the hospital and next Wednesday you won't be there, right?
We won't be here next week, no, next Wednesday. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen on Wednesday evening, so we'll see.
Next Wednesday is the procedure.
Yeah, next Wednesday is our procedure and she's not doing good, she can barely breathe, her lungs are so full of fluid, she probably waited too long before she went again this time.
You both will be there on Sunday?
We should be here this Sunday, and the following Sunday is a big should be, okay? I'm not entirely sure. I may be here electronically the following Sunday, I'm not really sure.
Okay, please let us know if there is anything we can do.
I will, and I'll try to keep everybody involved, I just haven't had anything to say, nothing's different than it was. Have a good day at work tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Take care.
You too. Good night.
It's just clogged up. So it's just stopped. I can't seem to make it work right. Hello. Oh, good night. Hope y'all the best.
Thank you.
Still praying.
We need it.
I know that.
We all need it.